Warning, priggish prevaricator alert.
The 14th Amendment, Section 3, is pretty clear. It doesn't require that you be convicted of insurrection. It just requires that you have engaged in these acts. It's a disqualification from holding office again. And it fits Donald Trump to a T. By the clear terms of the 14th Amendment, he should be disqualified from holding office.
Told you they were going to pull out all the stops. And that means by any means necessary, you got to dump Trump, even if it means obliterating the actual words, the actual meaning of the U.S. Constitution. And remember, as I said in the Angle, the Democrats know that their own base, it doesn't want Biden. They want another alternative to run. They see Biden's flagging poll numbers, but the party elites do not trust their own voters.
Under the 14th Amendment, he is not even allowed to run, even though he hasn't been convicted yet. Instead of concentrating so much about the indictments, I mean, I'm very excited about them myself, but I definitely think 14th Amendment all the way and just prevent him from running.
Well, she is a renowned constitutional scholar. Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, professor of law at George Washington University and a Fox News contributor. Professor, does getting left-leaning state attorneys general, as Adam Schiff was referring to, getting them involved here, does that give this wacky 14th Amendment strategy any more heft or credibility?
I don't think it does. You know, there are academics that have thought about this seriously and have supported this theory. I think that it's the most dangerous theory that has emerged in decades. I think it's entirely unsupported by the text and the history of the 14th Amendment. This provision was written after the Civil War of an actual rebellion where hundreds of thousands of people died. There was an army on the other side. They had their own foreign policy. That's a rebellion. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be used for anything that isn't of that magnitude, but it is notable that Trump has not been charged even with incitement, let alone rebellion or insurrection. Yet they say that this doesn't even require an act of Congress, that any judge can simply announce that he was supporting an insurrection and that he is therefore disqualified and voters will not get the choice of whether to vote for him or not. That's what makes this so dangerous. I don't think this will withstand review. They could end up getting a couple of judges to go with them. But in the long run, I think it'll be rejected. That's why I'm eager for them to take it to court so we can finally put this on the road and see if they can take it off, get this off the ground. I don't think it will. I
can imagine what Justice Alito and a few of the others would say about this. I mean, talk about anti-democratic. This is the ultimate anti-democratic move that you could think about. Like, it doesn't matter what the people want, whoever the nominee is. If they want Trump, if it wasn't Trump, DeSantis would be, they'd try to charge him with kidnapping the migrants and sending them to, Massachusetts or, California. I mean, you can see that this could go in a lot of different directions, none of them good.
No, I mean, this is a comforting tale to tell liberal children at night so they can sleep restfully. That, Donald Trump will not be on the ballot, but he will be on the ballot. And the thing is, this thing was written after the vice president of the Confederacy showed up in Congress to retake his oath. And people were just a bit peeved about that because he had taken that oath before. Now, we can all have disagreement about what January 6th was. It was a horrible day. It was a desecration of our constitutional system. In my view, and in the view of apparently a majority of people polled, it was a protest that became a riot. I don't believe that it was technically an insurrection. But the question is, should we just have a system where any judge can just take a riot like that and say, well, in my view, it was an insurrection, and you aided and abetted it by not responding fast enough, by using rhetoric that was inflammatory? That is a very dangerous theory, and it would be replicated over and over again if we allow it to be accepted.
To that point, Jonathan, Arizona's Secretary of State let slip an important detail about the broader implications of this 14th Amendment strategy. Watch this.
Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is a radical and sweeping proposition. This isn't just about one person in one office. This is about everyone who's running for any office. in the United States of America.
So look, if they can use this against Trump, what stops them from finding that someone else supported the the insurrection that wasn't an insurrection? So you could see where this would continue to leapfrog across other potential races.
That's right. And the ambiguity within this theory is quite maddening. If Trump had asked people to come back an hour earlier, would that have been not an insurrection? If he had mentioned go there peacefully 3 more times, would that have made the difference? We need a bright line rule. After all, Representative Raskin and Democrats tried to stop the certification of Donald Trump in 2016 when there were violent riots in Washington, D.C. against his inauguration. They had no grounds for that. There were no grounds in earlier certification fights by Democrats. Does that mean that they were all engaged in some rebellion or insurrection? No, it doesn't. We have to have some type of bright line rule that guarantees that the voters can make decisions on these questions. I'm not saying that people cannot read this as an insurrection as opposed to a riot, but you have to ask yourself, is this what you want replicated for the future? I don't think it is.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of things that were happening after the killing of George Floyd that were really scary in the country, and chaos was breaking out. People could make all sorts of findings of fact about that in different circumstances as well. Professor, wonderful to see you. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.